Secretary Gates, Father Jenkins, distinguished faculty and guests, family, friends, and graduates. We gather here today bound by a common ending and thousands of new beginnings. We gather here bound by ritual, nostalgia, achievement. This is a time to look out expectantly into the future, a horizon framed by the extent of our ambition and the audacity of our imagination. It's also a time to look back at the past 4 years, a time to enjoy the last few laughs with our friends, to take our last few walks around the quads, to look up for our last few times as students at that golden dome that stands out so distinctively against the Indiana sky. It's time to stop worrying about the grades, the applications, the jobs, and to think about what we've accomplished here these last 4 years, and look forward to where we are going next. As a high school senior, before I came to Notre Dame, my dad gave me a little silver paperweight with a curious inscription on it. It read, "Do not strive to be first, but rather be the first to strive." I didn't appreciate it at the time. To be honest, I thought it was simply a trite platitude, a play on words just for its own sake. Do not strive to be first, but rather be the first to strive. And part of this is because striving to be first is what we've always succeeded in doing, what we've known so intimately. We survived an arduous selection process to gain acceptance at one of the greatest universities in the nation. Not only did we come here, we thrived here. All the philosophy essays, senior projects and theses, tests full of chemistry mechanisms, thermal equations, and DCF models lie conquered in the past, silent tributes to our dedication and our abilities. We know on the precipice of entering a completely different phase in our lives that we've always excelled. We're accustomed to finding ourselves at the top, accustomed to being judged by our relative rankings to others. We're defined by numbers, percentages, GPAs, standardized test scores. This has been the paradigm that has guided our quest for the past decade, and we've done incredibly well. So what's our challenge? What's the challenge for our generation? David Brooks, writer for the New York Times, penned a couple columns in 2010 that for me were instrumental in defining our challenge. He writes that as compared to 50 years ago, college has become much more of a meritocracy. Old boys clubs at elite universities are things of the past. Average SAT scores and GPAs have risen. Having parents that attended a certain institution is no longer a golden ticket. More than ever, deserving people are earning their chances to shine. So what's wrong? Well, perhaps this development has a more subtle effect, about which we don't often think. Perhaps it has inspired us to adopt a cautionary, play-by-the-rules attitude. What do we lose when we obsess over grades and test scores? Well, maybe in our zeal to do so well, we don't challenge professors with quite so much vigor. Maybe we don't protest injustice quite so often. Just ask our parents. Maybe we have a little more apprehension about unleashing that rebellious idealism, such a hallmark of youth, into the world. We're encouraged to succeed within the system, but we don't desire to break through quite so much. The problem with having such a clear roadmap is that it's easy to stay safely between the lines. And we now find ourselves at the end of our Notre Dame career, and we enter a world that values something very different. We enter a world in which the true visionaries do not necessarily strive to be first. Oftentimes, they're the first to strive. There's no longer any one first place in the world, no longer one system in which to excel. We don't remember the valedictorians of the Harvard classes of 1977 or 2004. No. Instead, we remember two dropouts. One created Microsoft and is currently head of a $37 billion charitable foundation. The other started a visionary social network, which almost all of us here today use. And while the names at the top of Columbia University's class of 1983 have also faded with time, we do happen to remember a transfer from the little-known Occidental College who dared to dream that the United States could elect a black president. And while we may not remember the British authors who wrote with the most acclaimed intellect or stylistic eloquence, we do happen to remember a single mother who started a fantastical empire of 7 books on a paper napkin. These people did not necessarily strive to be first. Through ambition, through passion for an idea, through grit, they were the first to strive. And I believe that we, as graduates of this university, are well positioned to thrive in this world. You simply can't insulate yourself at Notre Dame. This is a school where we're necessarily immersed in the whole experience of what it means to be human, academically, culturally, athletically, spiritually. Notre Dame is not a place where pre-meds steal library books from each other. They take service trips together to Appalachia. Notre Dame is not a place where business majors pursue their craft without reflection. It's a place where business ethics is required, a place that is home to a nationally renowned business club that has a motto of peace through commerce. Notre Dame is not a place where spirituality is neglected. It's practiced, challenged, contemplated, debated. Notre Dame is not a place to escape. It's a place where we are forced to confront the issues of our time. We've seen forums in immigration, sustainability, the global marketplace. We've seen two of the greatest thinkers of our time debate whether or not religion is beneficial to society. We witnessed the good, the bad, and the ugly in the abortion debate 2 years ago when President Obama came at this very time. We have occupied a position at a cultural nexus for the past 4 years, whether we know it or not. And because of this, we're better prepared to be citizens of the world, better prepared to fight for what we believe in, to embrace the variety of human experience to the fullest. We learned from Notre Dame the path less traveled is worth investigating. The examined life is really the one worth living. We've been exposed to so much here on these scenic quads that it would be hard not to find something that truly kindles us. But whether we have been kindled is not enough. The most critical part is an embrace of that risk, a bright-eyed desire to take a detour from the straight path. When we inevitably look back in the twilight of our lives, the last red and dying evening, as William Faulkner said, I suspect we won't chide ourselves for following our passions. We won't regret taking a couple years and trying to turn our wild ideas into real businesses, whether they're successes or failures. We won't wish to go back and start our professional careers earlier at the expense of a service trip. We won't regret the stands we took, the ideas we pursued, the people we helped, the ones we loved. And at the end of the day, this is what it takes. This is what it takes for societies to thrive. It requires a lot of people deciding that the risks are worth it, that working for the collective good is worth it, that challenging the conventional wisdom is worth it. Greatness emerges when people actively engage the world of ideas and seek to nurture their own, rather than racing off to be the best. We look back at the expanse of history, and we wonder at these hallmarks of greatness, passed down so vividly. We ask ourselves, who were these people? Who were they with such audacity? We look upon the Parthenon, the tragedies of Sophocles, and the philosophy of Socrates, and we ask ourselves, who were these Greeks? Who were they with such audacity to reach for the transcendent? We look 2 millennia back at a small religious sect, and we ask ourselves, who were these people with such conviction in their belief that they were willing to die for this Jesus of Nazareth? We look at the founding of our country and ask ourselves, who were these colonists that they had the audacity to write so profoundly, ruminating on life, liberty, pursuit of happiness? So what questions will they ask about us? What will we do as a society that will be remembered as audacious? Who will we help? For what will we stand? We will all do our part to provide these answers in the coming years, and the information age guarantees that we will be remembered for better or worse. We may be remembered as a generation that failed. Maybe we'll simply be a footnote of history, leaving our problems to others in a later age. Or we may use the tools at our fingertips, so unprecedented for any previous generation in human history, and succeed. But succeed at what? Not in being the scientists and doctors with the most publications, or the department chairs in the best hospitals, but those who pursue meaningful, invigorating research, those that travel to the third world and seek to allay the suffering. Not in being the lawyers with the most successful trials, but those who take principled stands and represent those who may not otherwise have a voice. Not in being the businessmen that amass the greatest sums or climb to the top of the corporate ladder, but those who most zealously try to turn their ideas into reality, those that create, manage, nurture the next Facebook or the next Gates Foundation, uncover the next revolution. Every operation and every published paper, every handshake and every verdict, every investment and every IPO, every success and every failure moves the gears of the human experiment forward. So perhaps once in a while we should ask ourselves about our own decisions. In what direction am I taking us? So we leave here, bright-eyed, to spark the flames that will light the future. But not yet. For now, we gather here like 165 classes of Notre Dame seniors have before. We gather like the Greeks at the ancient theater, like the Romans at the Colosseum, like generations of expectant, hopeful fans of the blue and gold on autumn Saturdays. We celebrate the memories we've made here, the friendships, the trials, the triumphs. They will fade slowly into the sunset, a faint picture that we'll always remember. To be human is to remember, and little memories from our time at Notre Dame will always spontaneously kindle, like the twinkling of city lights from above. Some will make us laugh, others smile, still others wince. But no matter how distant our years here become, they have fundamentally altered us. We have spent 4 of the best years of our lives, 4 of the most intellectually curious, vigorous, challenging, rewarding years of our lives at this incredible university. They will be with us forever. I went back home for Easter after I had written this, and I found that old silver paperweight lying haphazardly in my closet. Dust was visible along the edges, and the silver might not have gleamed the way it once had. But the message was untouched by those all too familiar forces that tend to take the luster off everything else. Do not strive to be first, but rather be the first to strive. I believe that we have a golden opportunity as we depart from beneath this Notre Dame sky to do just that. Class of 2011, congratulations.